In this workshop, we're going to talk about how to create top tips Kindle books. And there are so many possibilities. My hopes are that the training is going to spark ideas for you and that you're going to realize that you already have so much content created or ideas for new types of content based on this fun and easy formula. So let's get started. Here's what we'll cover today. We're going to talk about what are top tips books. I'll share some examples of top tips books. And then we're going to talk about the process for creating top tips books. As a tongue twister, right? And then I'm going to share some tips for locating content that you may already have for your top tips book. And then we're going to talk about choosing a title for your top tips book that makes it really clear to your readers what your book is about. And it also shows you that you can create a formula that you can rinse and repeat with different content perhaps, but a similar type of formula. So we're going to talk about that and how to create a pattern so that your readers can feel comfortable with the flow of your book. And so I'll share some tips and some examples about that. And then, of course, as always, we'll have some action steps. So what are top tips Kindle books? Top tips books can be comprised of a collection of ideas, articles, etc. that are tied together or related. For example, you can share blog posts on a common theme, or you can share suggested steps that walk people through a process. And when I show you the examples, a lot of this will click for you, I believe. Top tips books can be comprised of steps such as 7 steps for getting more sleep. Do you see how I'm using alliteration in there as well by having so many words that start with the same letter as the number that we're using in our tips? It's not essential, but it just makes it fun and it makes it memorable, something to consider. You can also have a tips book, something like 10 tips to take your social media presence to the next level. Or you may have days or weeks in your tips title, such as 5 weeks to feeling fit. And then each week you provide a tip for that week with activities that they can choose from, etc. So again, I'm hoping that this sparks other ideas for you. Here's some more examples of top tips Kindle books. Answers to frequently asked questions. Answers to questions gathered via a survey. Maybe you send it out via email or you send it out via social media. And you ask a few key questions. Don't make your surveys long and involved. The longer they are, the fewer people will complete it. So you want to make it short and sweet. So I would say no more than 3 questions. And one of the questions might be a demographics question, such as, what country do you live in? Or how would you describe, and whatever it is that you want to know. Maybe you're looking to connect with a certain age range, or you want to see how certain demographics respond to certain questions. And you can send out that survey via Google Docs or a program such as SurveyMonkey, and then people fill it out and then you get the results. You can create a top tips Kindle book from answers to questions that you know your audience would benefit from. So you can think about the most common emails you get, or the most common questions you get on calls or on social media, or based on your experience, what you feel are the top 10 things that your audience needs to know on the topic of your book. And that provides you with a great formula for a top tips book. You can also share a top tips book based on steps that help your readers complete a process. So maybe a 7-day challenge or 7 steps to blah, blah, blah. So again, I'm hoping that this will spark some ideas for you. And in the action pages that go along with this training, you'll have room to write out your ideas. So here are some examples of top tips Kindle books. The first one is a recording that I transcribed, 5 ways to create content for Kindle. The second one, this is interesting, right? 92 little tricks. So maybe you've been collecting FAQs or hot tips or gems, and maybe you have a lot of them, 21 or in this case 92. That can provide great content for a book. Or maybe you want to start to gather ideas where every week you're going to write a blog post where you're going to give them a new tip. And at the end of the year, you're going to have 52 ways to, or 52 steps to, or 52 tips on your topic. And then you can turn that into a Kindle book. Or maybe each 10 you want to turn into a book in the series, depending on how many words you have. Because if you recall, we want to keep our Kindle books, if at all possible, to a minimum of 5,000 words per book. So you decide how it pans out. I'm just planting the seeds and giving you some fuel for thought. The next one is 10 tips to build your self-esteem. And then the last one is 7 steps to get off sugar and carbohydrates. So here are some examples to spark ideas and to show you what's on the marketplace. So you may want to spend some time on Amazon exploring tips books. You can type in 10 tips or 7 steps and see what pulls up on Amazon so you can get some more ideas for your books. So let's talk now about the process for creating top tips books. Step 1 is to identify what your ideal audience struggles with or wants to know more about, because that gives you a perfect platform for creating content. Step 2, locate on your computer or on your blog or create content based on your expertise that your audience is interested in. So you want that intersection, your expertise and what you're interested in, intersected with your audience interests and needs. That will make a great formula for a book that will attract your ideal readers. And then step 3 is to gather that content into a Word document so you can begin to format it and get it ready to publish to Kindle. And what you want to do is start each tip on a fresh page, because this will become a table of contents entry in your Kindle book in the table of contents. And that will help you and your readers to see the layout of your book. And then edit and add content for clarity and completeness. So you may need to round out the content. You may need to edit the content. You may need to update the content, but you're going to have a strong foundation to build from. So as you locate or compose content for your top tips books, you can start by looking for existing content. Perhaps it's on your computer hard drive in the form of articles or audios to transcribe. You want to make copies, leave the original in their original folders, and then make copies that you may want to transform into top tips books and put those into a top tips folder that you can edit and change and delete, and the originals will maintain their integrity. Perhaps you have existing content on your blog, posts that you've written on a common theme. Or maybe you have several themes and you'll find that you have 10 or 20 articles on these various themes, and you come to realize that you have content for several Kindle books. This can be exciting when you see what you've already created. And what this does is it gives your content new life, and new readers can access your brilliance, your knowledge, content that is still relevant, that people are eager to learn about, but they may not scroll through all those pages on your blog to find the content. Well, this will bring it to the forefront by getting it into a Kindle book. So think about all of the people that you'll be helping by sharing your wisdom in a different format. Perhaps you'll find interviews that you've participated in and have the rights to. You can transcribe these and pull out the gems on a common theme. You can also compose new content or collect a list of questions that your audience would love the answers to. And this can be a lot of fun. Now, you can also create blog posts after you create your Kindle book. So let's say you put together a list of 10 top tips and you compose it based on a survey that you do. Well, then you can take each of those tips and create a blog post that you post to your blog. So you see how you're recycling and recirculating your content from one medium to the other, making it available to more readers, boosting your visibility, your credibility, and helping more people in the process. One of the things that you want to do in a top tips book is to create a pattern so that your readers come to know what to expect. So here's an example. Once you've gathered or composed your content, read through each tip or step and edit and add content for clarity. Then what you can do to create that pattern is begin each chapter, quote unquote, each tip, each step with a few sentences or a brief paragraph from you introducing the new step or tip and tying it into the overall topic area. And then what you want to do is start each tip on a fresh page, and that will become a new chapter title in your table of contents, making the content more accessible. And then you create that predictable pattern where you can start each section, each new chapter, if you will, with an introduction of a brief paragraph or a couple of sentences from you that can tie the tips together on your common theme. And then to wrap it up, what you can do is end each tip with either an action step or a section called Food for Thought, where you recap what you just shared or you give them takeaways so they're walking away with the key components of each tip. And by creating that pattern, what you're doing is you're creating consistency and you're making it easy for your readers to go through your book. And then you want to create a compelling book cover that makes it clear what the book is about. You want your book cover to draw your readers in. So this is where when you're clear about who your audience is and what they need based on your expertise, you're going to draw those right people to you. And by creating an attractive book cover with big font, because remember, Kindle book covers are like 1.5 inches by 1 inch in size as a thumbnail on Amazon. So you want it to be eye-catching, you want the font to be big, and you don't want a lot of text on the cover. It's better to have less text in a bigger font. So for example, you can include the format of your book in the title, such as 10 Tips To, or 7 Strategies For, or 5 Free Ways To. And that is what's going to catch people's eyes and draw them in. And then search Amazon for examples. You can type in the above 3 bullet points into Amazon one at a time and search Amazon to get even more ideas. So what idea or ideas do you have for a top tips book? Go ahead and print off the worksheets that go along with this training and jot down your ideas while they're fresh in your mind. I can't wait to hear what you publish, and be sure to let me know so we can feature you in our Kindle Authors Showcase and help you get more eyeballs on your creations.